There are many notable characters in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, many of whom have rich extensive lore that contribute to the amazing stories that they are part of. Not too long ago, we covered the story of Uriel Septim, going through his childhood, his time in Oblivion, and how those events shaped his rule as the Emperor of Tamriel, going from a young energetic emperor with ambitions of uniting the territories together, to a much more cautious and older emperor after he was trapped in Oblivion by his own court mage Yegar Tharn for 10 years. Today's lore video is gonna cover a character who didn't have nearly as long of a reign as his father, but was still very instrumental and notable for very different reasons. The events of the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion took place during the Oblivion Crisis, a time where the Daedric prince Mehrunes Dagon attempted to turn Tamriel into an extension of his realm of Oblivion, the Deadlands. After the assassination of Uriel Septim and almost all of his sons, Oblivion gates began opening all around Cyrodiil as the Daedric forces sought to weaken the armies and pave the way for Dagon to take over completely. Due to the actions of the eventual champion of Cyrodiil and Martin Septim, they were able to foil his plans and banish him back to his own realm. Today, we are going to be taking a closer look at the latter, so sit back, relax, and enjoy as we go through the lore behind the bastard son, Martin Septim. Martin Septim is the illegitimate son of Uriel Septim and an unknown woman, possibly a mistress. When he was merely an infant, he was immediately taken away by Joffre to be raised, never knowing his true heritage. He had a relatively normal childhood, as nothing notable occurred as he was growing up. Although, from time to time, Uriel would ask about Martin's progression, which meant that Blade's agents, quite possibly Joffre himself, would keep an eye on Martin to make sure he didn't get to any trouble that he couldn't get out of. Growing up, he was led to believe that his father was a farmer, of course, having no knowledge that he had the blood of the legendary Septim Dynasty within him. At some point in his early adulthood, Martin Septim became a member of the Mages Guild. While he did very well as a mage, like many others who were members of the guild, he sought knowledge and power beyond the limitations of what he believed the guild could offer. So, he eventually fell into the ranks of the Daedric prince Sanguine. Now, this was never confirmed directly. Martin Septim was once in the possession of Sanguine's Rose, which is an artifact that is directly connected to the Daedric prince, meaning they don't just let anyone hold their pretty little toys unless the person was either a significant figure or a follower of theirs. The pursuit of this knowledge and power unfortunately led to a tragedy when Martin was involved in an accident that saw most of his associates and friends killed. It was at this moment that he decided to turn his life around and become a follower of the Divines. He completely abandoned his old life and became a priest of Akatosh. In fact, we can discern based on how he reacts when we ask him about his background that he regrets going down that path, but I think being close to the operations of the Daedra and the cult have given him a better understanding of how the Mythic Dawn operates in his future and partly why he was able to survive. That, or we can always put the reasoning into the plot armor in that he cannot die until it is the right time. As I said before, he eventually became a priest of Akatosh in the city of Kvatch, and this was where his life would turn around for a second time. At some point during his servitude, the city of Kvatch was invaded by hordes of Daedra, which would trigger the start of the invasion of Mehrunes Dagon into Tamriel. It can be suspected that the attack on Kvatch was a way for them to flush out and kill Martin Septim, as part of Dagon's plan of taking over Tamriel was using his followers in the Mythic Dawn to kill all the remaining members of the Septim Dynasty, including Uriel and all of his sons, at least that were documented and known. They just missed Martin because he was kept secret from the moment he was born. This might be a possible foresight on the part of Uriel Septim in the event that something like this would happen, or perhaps an attempt to protect his image in the eyes of the Empire, but regardless, it spared Martin's life. Just before the Daedra were able to get to him, a hero saved his life and took him to Joffre, where Martin would then be told of his heritage as the last heir to the Ruby Throne, which he was very surprised by. Then the rest of his life is pretty much portrayed in the main story of Oblivion, with the Blades protecting him while preparing him to light the dragon fires and banishing Mehrunes Dagon from Tamriel. Martin was very instrumental in the hero of Kvatch's journey throughout the main story. He was able to help him stop the Great Gate, which would have unleashed the hordes of Daedra, as well as the legendary siege weapon. He was able to uncover Dagon's plan and help the hero defeat Mankar Cameron by opening a portal to Paradise. He was likely able to learn about this link between a Daedric prince and his followers using his time as a follower of Sanguine. Of course, because of how far the Mythic Dawn were able to progress in their plans, Mehrunes Dagon managed to step into Tamriel and attack the city, just as Okaro proclaimed Martin Septim as Emperor of Cyrodiil, which effectively started his reign. With battle raging on the streets of the Imperial City, Imperial soldiers and Daedric forces fighting each other in every corner, and bodies laying around on the streets. With no options left, Martin Septim committed the ultimate sacrifice and used the dragon fires to turn himself into the avatar of Akatosh and did battle with Dagon himself, eventually defeating him and banishing him back to his realm of oblivion. As a result of this, the avatar eventually became a statue, which still stands in the Imperial City up until the events of Skyrim as a symbol of the last heroic act of the last heir of the Septim Dynasty. While Martin never had a reign like his predecessors did, it can be argued that his actions to serve the Empire were just as significant and managed to save the world in his own way. Unfortunately, due to his premature passing and not having any children, the Septim Dynasty effectively ended, and while High Chancellor Okaro did all that he could to maintain the peace, there were those who sought to take advantage of the power vacuum and make claims to the throne and declare war, as well as other provinces looking to establish themselves as the next dominant group in Tamriel, and I'm looking right at the Thamor. Essentially, the start of the Fourth Era was less stable after the passing of Martin Septim. But if we go behind the curtain a little bit, I was really happy with the voice acting of Sean Bean for a game as early as Oblivion that came out in 2006. For those of you who aren't familiar with Sean Bean, he's known for portraying characters that don't make it to the end. Some notable ones being Boromir from Lord of the Rings and Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, although as Odysseus he was able to survive the events of Troy, which is an adaptation of the Trojan War in Greek mythology. I think an actor that is known for a very specific reason in the world of film is a cool thing to have, as no one else can take that distinction away from him. And it also helps that he is playing a very notable character in Martin Septim in a game like Oblivion, which also recently got a remaster. So for those of you who didn't get a chance to play the original, you can experience it in the remaster. I also think it would be cool if we could get a deep dive into Martin's earlier life as a guild member and a follower of Sanguine, whether that would be in a book, movie, or game form. I think what would be cool to see. Let me know what your thoughts are on this and any other Elder Scrolls content in the comment section below. Other than that, leave a like on this video if you enjoyed and consider subscribing to the channel to see more Elder Scrolls content. This is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all soon.